What if Deku had creation, part 7? This is going to be a 10-minute, 7-minute video, as this is going to probably be the final part. That's if I feel like it should be the final part in this video. Or I feel like I've covered enough information in this video for it to be the final part. Now, let's get right into the what if. Now, where I left off, All For One just told Moneta not to take Bakugo's quirk and to keep him alive. This causes Bakugo to be shocked, as he has a powerful quirk that would clearly benefit Moneta or All For One. Now, let's go back over to Izuku, as he's in a conference with all the pro heroes. They're talking about their next action, as Deku says one thing that shocks them. He knows that they brought them there to try and turn him into a villain, but he doesn't know why Moneta would do something so stupid. Because he knows as long as Moneta gets girls, he'll do anything. So he knows that Moneta will end up, if this is a touchy subject, Deku knows he'd end up raping somebody if he had the chance. This is Moneta we're talking about. The only thing that kept him from doing that to one of the girls was him trying to become a hero. He knew if he did something like that, he'd never be a hero and he'd never get girls. So he would not do that. But when he's a villain, he can do whatever he wants. So he would inevitably end up doing that. Now, let's just time skip to when the raid all goes down. All Might busts in and yells, "Pizza delivery." Everyone's kind of shocked by this, except for All For One, who was expecting something like this, as he charges right at All Might using the quirks he had to try and beat him. As they keep clashing almost on an equal scale, fist after fist each hitting and being blocked, but each taking damage too. This inevitably ends up winding them down to where they're both on the verge of death. With one final punch, both of them are sent back into buildings that collapse onto them, killing both of them, as right before All Might dies, he gives One For All to Deku, or Izuku. Izuku's obviously kind of shocked by this, but he knows that he must beat Moneta, which he knew something like this was going to happen. So they both charge right at each other, as they do the same thing All For One and All Might did. That was until Moneta got the bright idea to try and take Izuku's quirk. He put both of his hands together, slammed him down, and put his hand right on to Deku's head, as he looks at Deku and says, "I won. I am going to be the king of villains, the harem king." As he tries to snap, which, spoilers if you have not seen Avengers Endgame, but I'm kind of using this towards this, as he's like, "I am the harem queen," as he snaps his fingers, only for nothing to happen, as he's like, "What? How? I stole your quirk. Tried to create the Infinity Stone quirk." As Deku just says, "Thanks for the idea. And I am Izuku," as he snaps. As Moneta's like, "No," as he turns to dust. As all the villains around them, Shigaraki turns to dust. As everyone's just like, wait, why'd Kurogiri not turn to dust? As all the Nomus also turn to dust, as Deku goes over and puts a hand on Kurogiri, reverting him back to his original form. Which, if you guys have read the Vigilantes manga, you know that Kurogiri is actually a Nomu from a dead UA Deku a student, which I believe is this guy with blue hair that kind of looks like flames with a cloud-type quirk, who ended up dying. This is who I believe Kurogiri is, as he reverts him back to the original form, as he's like, what? Where am I? Last thing I remember is fighting a giant dinosaur with Aizawa. So Aizawa just looks at him shocked, and he's like, what? I thought you died. He's like, what? What do you mean? So all this ends up happening as the world is in peace. Deku solved all the villains' problems. Any villains that could be turned to good didn't end up dying, but they were turned to good, as all the villains disintegrated into dust. Which, I mean, that'd be a giant payday for all the janitors out there. Now, you may be wondering what happened to Deku and Momo, who were dating. They eventually ended up getting married, as Deku became very famous, for he is the person who defeated all of the villains. He destroyed villains. Now, this legacy, or what Izuku did, stopped people from becoming villains. The people of Japan, or the people of the world, made him the sole protector of it, which stopped villains from stopped people from becoming villains. They knew if they became a villain, they'd end up turning to dust. Then they wouldn't become a villain. Everybody at the age of 4, around when they get their quirks, watches this. They all see how all the villains just disappeared because they were villains. As Deku and Momo end up becoming rich from people donating, but also not rich at the same time, as Deku donates most of this money to people in need, like homeless people and quirkless people. He wouldn't know how it feels, but he still donates to them, so they have a place to go if they're abandoned. Now, over time, Deku and Momo end up having children. As each child ends up having more children, they have a legacy where they pass down the creation quirk to one another. If one inherited the creation quirk from Izuku and the other didn't, he'd give the other his to the one that didn't. As they keep passing that down as their legacy of the protectors of the world continue, as the world lives in peace. Basically, if this was in Dragon Ball, the mortal level would be as high as possible. As, like, nobody robs any banks. Like, it's just complete peace. Nobody does anything villainous, all because of the protectors that stop it from happening. They destroy the villains. They destroy the evil from its roots. So that's where I'm going to leave it off, guys. Hope you guys did enjoy What If Deku Had Creation, this whole series. And there probably won't be a new What If on Saturday and Sunday, as I'm thinking about doing What If Deku, or What If Asta had one for all. See ya, guys. Bye.